I got another video talking about the history of Europe, and I got a picture of Kevin Durant. Now, I've got this picture right here because I want to talk about that last name, Durant, and how it's a French name. It comes from France. Now, if you've been on my channel long enough, I'll talk about real Black history, and I say that, so-called Black people, we come from, the so-called Black people of the Americas, we come from three different places. Some of us were Aboriginal, some of our ancestors came from West Africa, and some of our ancestors came from Europe as deportees or refugees, or they were kicked out of Europe. And a lot of our lineages go back to the British Isles, goes back to Germany, and goes back to France. Like that's why it goes back to Kevin Durant. This name right here, Durant, that's a French name. And let's just go into the etymology of that word. Durant, surname of French and English origin. It ultimately derives from the Latin omen named Durandus, meaning enduring. Notable people with the surname include Adrian Durant, a sprint athlete from the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, we talked about how a lot of people from the British Isles, they ended up going to the Caribbean islands and going to the Americas. Now, I want to talk about kind of just a little bit of something I talked about in the last video about the Vikings. I had a lot of naysayers on my page on that video saying that, they thought it was a joke. Well, let's go right here. This is a page, an excerpt from a book called The Origin of the Anglo-Saxon Race. And this is the original copy. This is just the Wikipedia page version of it. But I just want to go right here. The invasion of the coast of the British Isles by Vikings of a dark or black complexion rests on historical evidence which is too circumstantial to admit of doubt. In the Irish annals, the Black Vikings are called Dub Genti or Black Gentiles because Dub means black. That's where we get the word Douglas from. It comes from Douglas. So these Black Gentiles on some occasions fought against other plunderers of the Irish coast known as the Fair Gentiles, who can hardly have been others than the Fair Danes or Northmen. In the year 851, the Black Gentiles came to Ashkelett, i.e. Dublin in Ireland. In 852, we are told that 8 ships of the Finn Genti arrived and fought against the Dub Genti for 3 days, and that the Dub Genti were victorious. The Black Vikings appear at this time to have had a settlement in close to Dublin, and during the 9th century were much in evidence on the Irish coast. In 877, a great battle was fought at Loch Cuan between them and the Fair Gentiles, in which Alban, chief of the Black Gentiles, fell. He may have been a chieftain of the race of the northern Sorbs of the Mecklenburg coast. And there is still another way in which men of black hair and it cuts off, but this book was written because the author was trying to figure out his origins of where he came from, where basically the Anglo-Saxon race came from, and he was seeing evidence that the Anglo-Saxon race originated from what we would call black people, or what he said, the Dub Gentiles or the Black Gentiles. All right. This is the etymology of that word, dub. Etymology from Old Irish dub, from Proto-Celtic dubis or black, Proto-Indo-European dub, black. So that's what it means. Dub means black. Let's go a little bit. This is the word Douglas. Linguistically, Douglas is derived from the Gaelic element dub, meaning dark or black, and glas, meaning stream. Also a derivative of glass, meaning green. The surname Douglas is a habitational name which could be derived from any of the many places so named. And so that's why these Douglases, these were so-called people of color. And it's just a name that they were called. All right. This is a picture of a monument bus in a church in England called St. Kenelm's Church, Sapperton, Gloucestershire, and it was said to be have been made around 1100 AD. And as you can see from, the curly beard and the curly scalp, even the nose and the lips, that's a so-called black man, and he was, that's how a lot of people looked in that ancient or middle age of England, medieval England. Another picture, this is Edith of England and Otto the First. They were the kings and queens of the Holy Roman Empire. This is in the 1900s. And as you can see from them, I mean, of course, their bust is, looks copper colored, but this is what we would call black, you know, just with you know, the the way they look, even with their, bone structure and their facial structure, how they were constructed in the image, but even with the, the hair texture and things like that. But the one thing when people see these statues or these paintings of, the people with long straight hair, you gotta remember that, our people have straightened our hairs. That it's not a that's not a new concept. They've always straightened their hair. You see images of like Cat Williams or Snoop Dogg, people who straighten their hair with long hair. ASAP Rocky. That's always been a thing. That's not a modern thing. Our people have always straightened their hair, so that's always been there. This is the depiction of a Frankish coin. Frankish was old France. So this is in the 1300s. And as you can see, this is a Frankish bronze seal of a guy, Lord Nucci Relly. And this is just a bust of a black man. You can see from, just the hair texture, his face, prominent forehead, the nose, the lips. That's how the people of France looked at that time in the 1300s. It's another bust in another church in England, St. Mary's Church, Ofcombe, Devon, founded in the 1100s. And I'm just showing some of these images just to show people, that our people come from all over. We're not just, indigenous to Africa. So-called black people. We're, indigenous to all places, and some of us may have ancestry in these lands. So I just want everybody to kind of not, ride on that slavery narrative. That's all narrative. It's not all true. Of course, many of our people came from the west coast of Africa, but it was in the thousands. It wasn't in the millions. Like they say, a lot of our people came from Europe. That's why they still have the last names of today. They try to make it seem like your last name came from a slave owner, and that's not necessarily the case. A lot of those last names are actual last names from Europe. All right. It's peace.